And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Friday, June 24th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Scher. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. 14 game slate today. Big one. We got basically everybody to talk about. So buckle up. We're going to be here for a bit. And by a bit, I mean no later than 12:15 because I don't want to talk about baseball longer than 75 minutes. Before we do anything, like, subscribe, notification bell. That will help out a ton, but hit that like button in particular. We want to run that number up as much as we can. Adam, how are you? How was your Thursday?
I'm good. Thursday was good. Baseball was, I pretty much broke even, lost a little bit, so nothing crazy there. But yeah, I'm good. Ready for the weekend.
I got paddled in that early slate. It was not good. I pulled up the whatever the hell the four-seamer was. Whatever that was,
your ass is sore again?
It certainly does. I pulled up the four-seamer or whatever it was called yesterday because that was the contest that we entered, or that I entered on the process in the morning, and pulled up everybody from Awesemo, and it was just like a beating across the board, except for Eddie got one into like the top 40 and was able to do well, but just a lot of negative profits, including Rinpack running a 20 lineup train, which I'm going to assume was not an intentional thing to do, but for $80, I think he's going to be okay.
Yeah, most likely.
Let's just dive into it now. I don't have anything else. I don't have any more plays. No, I'll hit you with one. Scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with the Washington Wizards draft yesterday?
So I'd actually just tweeted asking how I should feel about that, and so far the returns are along the lines of what you said, that I should not be particularly happy.
Yeah, nothing good. Draft was fun. Did you watch the draft?
No, didn't watch it.
Okay. Did you watch? You were too busy watching our coverage of the draft last night?
Yeah, exactly. No, the restaurant I was at didn't have TVs at their bar, so I was just following on Twitter and a little bit, but no, I wasn't watching.
All righty. Well, now we can dive in. First game up on the slate, Yankees and Astros. Luis Severino, Justin Verlander. It's a 4.2 run implied total for the Yankees, 3.8 for the Stros. Severino, 10,200 today, third most expensive pitcher on DraftKings. He is 16% owned. Justin Verlander, most expensive pitcher on DraftKings, 10,600, 10% owned. The floor is yours here. I'm a little surprised to see Severino more owned than Verlander.
Yeah, I kind of am too. I mean, obviously it's a difficult matchup for both guys, but Verlander, you kind of just have the longer track record. Although Severino does have the best strikeout percentage on the slate at just shy of 30%. He's been good this year. 3.23 xFIP is slightly better than Verlander as well. But I'm with you. I'm a little surprised just because we kind of just, I mean, like I said, we have a longer track record on Verlander. I kind of thought that people would probably be a little bit more comfortable going there in a difficult matchup.
Like, I've got Verlander more likely to go deeper in this game. As of right now, I think it's a better strikeout matchup for Verlander in comparison to the Astros. First three hitters in the Astros lineup: Altuve, Brantley, Bregman, 15% K rate, 12% K rate, 13% K rate via steamer. I had Verlander come out of my sim significantly better. I'm very, very surprised to see the ownership disparity. Honestly, I'm a little surprised to see Aaron Nola just be miles and miles and miles ahead instead of just like a little bit, but we're going to get to Aaron Nola in a little bit. Ultimately, I would just like to have a little bit more Verlander, and it's not that I think Severino's like wildly over-owned. I just think that Verlander seems to be getting slept on.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, we also have Verlander projected about 1.5 less than Severino.
Do we really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am on a slightly different landing spot here, as I have Justin Verlander over 3 points ahead of Luis Severino.
Yeah.
Might need to dig into that one a bit, but
yeah, kind of just looking other places. There's another one that has them basically the same.
I mean, okay, so I'm pulling up Severino now on FanGraphs. I want to see how deep he's been going in his past couple starts. Could just be that I'm
plus pitches frequently.
66 innings on the year in 12 games is an average of 5.5 innings per game. So we're talking 16 to 17 outs.
Last 5 starts: 7, 6 1/3, 7, 6, 5, 94, 103, 92, 103, 102 pitches.
Yeah, probably need to give him a little bit of. I don't want to go too far because he is also facing the Astros. It's not
right.
Like, it's not a great spot to begin with. If I give him the extra out, it'll still look a little bit better, but I don't know. I think I greatly prefer Verlander here. I'm comfortable in my stance, at least as of right now. We'll see where that actually ends up as we get closer to lock. Also, shout out to the porn bot. Always great to see. Delete Tinder. We have sex cheaper. Always good to know. I don't know how that's cheaper than free. As far as I'm understand, Tinder doesn't cost you anything, but I don't know. I've never had it. Let's talk bats. This one should be a bit of an easier discussion. Yankees 24th in aggregate ownership, Astros 27th. This isn't like the 3-gamer last night where it's very easy to see why their bats could just be good. On a 14-game slate, 28 total teams. Luis Severino and Justin Verlander on the hill, two of the three most expensive pitchers. Do you anticipate getting to the Yankees and Astros? We like getting to them when they're low owned, but this seems like a bit of a tough sell.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that, like, it's that for me. Like, if I get to the Yankees and Houston at low ownership, I'm never going to be upset about it. But neither of these pitchers are pulling a ton of ownership. Neither offense looks very good. It's a rough spot. And with it being a 14-game slate, there's just going to be a lot of offenses that aren't pulling much ownership that also aren't facing Luis Severino or Justin Verlander.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. Clearly, you get an Aaron Judge one-off, you're not mad. You get a Yordan Alvarez one-off here in Yankee Stadium, you're not mad. There's nothing here that I could really advocate for other than just like general MLB randomness. No one's mad that you get a Yankees and Astros stack, but they are just not a priority today.
Yeah, it's just there's so many other stacks that are like, 1, 2, 3, 4% owned that are just going to be in better spots.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to add here. Crazy. This is like the two best offenses on the slate, and
two of the best pitchers.
Yeah, you just don't talk about them. And it makes sense. Move it on. Guardians and Red Sox. I also had to remind my dad once again that it was the Cleveland Indians that are the Guardians. So that's now twice in the entire week that I've been here. 4.2 run implied total for the Guardians, 4.4 for the Red Sox. Cal Quantrill and Nick Pivetta. Neither guy getting any ownership. I don't see anything really wrong with that. Pivetta at 9,800 is a pretty monstrous price tag. 8,800 for Quantrill. I don't get the sense that I'm going to have either one of these guys.
Yeah, same boat. Normally, I don't mind getting to Pivetta, but 9,800, like you said, very, very expensive price tag. Decent strikeout stuff for him, 24.9% strikeout percentage, but not a great strikeout matchup. Quantrill, bad strikeout pitcher, 14.8%, and a difficult matchup against Boston. So pretty tough sell, I think, to get to either pitcher with any sort of frequency.
I gave Severino that extra out, by the way. That's an extra 0.9 fantasy points. So I've cut the gap a little bit. Not that it matters to anybody else. Let's talk bats, because we do have a couple talking points here, things that are at least interesting. So we'll start on the Red Sox side, where they are 9th in aggregate ownership, 10th in stack score. But the key piece that we need to point out here, 2nd in top stack percentage. You're going to have to save some money somewhere going to a 5-man Red Sox stack if you're looking to stack, but they have the second biggest rate of being the top stack. Do you want to get to Boston here against Cleveland?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good spot against Quantrill. They are pulling a little bit of ownership, but not really. I mean, 4% aggregate ownership. They're expensive, so that'll make it difficult, but it's a good spot against Quantrill so far this year. 182 expected ISO to righties with a 12.2% strikeout percentage. Lefties have a 215 expected ISO with an 18.5% strikeout percentage. Rafael Devers looks really good, also really expensive, but looks good. Duran is still cheap leading off. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Trevor Story all have a lot of power. Verdugo's cheap. So yeah, at current ownership levels, I do like the Red Sox.
Yeah, just a lot of ownership to Duran, a lot of ownership to Devers, and then it just falls off of a cliff for Boston.
It's not even that much. I mean, 12% to Devers, 8 to Duran.
No, not at all. The Devers looks great at 6,200, even with that price tag. I don't mind it at all. Do you anticipate getting there? Are they going to be too expensive given the way pitching shakes out, or are you just going to be getting deeper into the value arms?
Yeah, I'll say. I mean, that kind of ends up being the question: is what cheap pitching can I use? Because it doesn't appear that any cheap pitchers are really pulling ownership here, which kind of suggests that there's not good cheap options.
Yeah.
But there are just so many of them that I think I still can kind of just mix and match and hope for the best on some of these guys.
On the opposite side of this one, Guardians 13th in ownership, 20th in our stack score. Outside of Jose Ramirez, is there anything here for you for Cleveland?
Not really. I mean, Ramirez is always a good play. Pavetta is just a decent pitcher, 4.0 xFIP so far this year. As far as power goes, a 221 expected ISO to lefties, 211 to righties. He is someone that, will give up some home runs, but you don't have a ton of power in this lineup outside of Ramirez. If you wanted to take shots on guys like Naylor or Gonzalez, that's fine, but Ramirez is certainly the one that really stands out.
Yeah, I would ask you your favorite Guardians bat, but it's not close. I guess we don't have anything else here either. So moving on to game 3.
Yep.
Rays and Pirates. 4.3 run implied total for the Rays, 3.2 for the Pirates. Jeffrey Springs and Mitch Keller going for Tampa and Pittsburgh, respectively. Now we've got a talking point. $8,500 Springs on DraftKings. 47% owned. $8,300 Springs on FanDuel. 25% owned. I agree that he looks fantastic. 47% feels pretty sizable, but he is, to me, one of the best arms you're going to get to relative to his salary.
Yeah, completely agree. Like the ownership is probably a bit higher than it needs to be, but at the same time, you're getting him at $8,500, so he's less expensive than most of the pitching that you're going to be interested today. He has a 26.8% strikeout percentage, 3.25 xFIP, facing one of the worst offenses in baseball in the Pirates. So it's a spot where, it's only one spot. It's one roster spot, so it's not like it's difficult to have a contrarian lineup and still have him. He's going to project really well. Ownership's probably a little bit high, but also clearly looks like the top pitching option.
Yeah. I mean, just that price tag is like, I've got him better off than Pavetta, and we're talking about a $1,300 gap. That's pretty massive. I will happily get there. I don't get the sense that I will be getting to that 47% number on a day like today. There's just too many arms for me to do that, but I don't begrudge anybody that wants to get to a lot of Springs in this one. Do you get to Keller at all? Couldn't even say it.
Chat just picked up on your man bun.
Great. No man bun here.
As far as Keller goes, I have thought he should be good for years, and he never has been. It's a good pitcher's park. It's an okay matchup. He is fully stretched out. He's thrown at least 90 pitches in 4 straight starts. All of that being said, very, very risky option. He's somebody that I don't mind taking some shots at if I am, for example, stacking an expensive team like the Red Sox. But you just can't feel very good about it. I mean, the guy's not a particularly good pitcher for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, he is not.
He doesn't even strike guys out.
I don't get the sense we're getting.
He used to at least strike guys out and get lit up. Now he just gets lit up.
Yeah, Steamer, 20% K rate, 10% walk rate. Not a lot to write home about here.
Larry C just said exactly what I was going to say. Keller will be good once the Pirates trade him.
Seems to be the way that it works for the world. Do you have any interest in going to the Pirates bats because of Springs ownership?
Not particularly, no.
Same. They don't grade out all that well for me. Certainly cheap. You need a value stack. There are certainly going to be worse ways to do it, but I don't see the appeal here. Rays are 14th in aggregate ownership, 18th in stack score. I feel like we're ignoring the Rays as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in Tampa here. I mean, the park's not great. They are missing guys from their lineup. Obviously not having Wander Franco, not having Margot, but Mitch Keller is not good. So the fact that they aren't pulling much ownership here, they're towards the bottom of the top stack stool, which kind of surprises me. But
yeah,
I am interested in them just because the matchup against Keller is good.
Yeah, I'm with you. The park seems to nerf them. Implied run total doesn't look all that great. We've got a ton of teams like in and around that 5 range. They're a bit lower than that. On the surface, they make sense. I just think that we're going to find a couple better options as we move along.
Yeah, and I mean the lineup is ugly too. When you like, it's like, oh well, yeah, I'd like to take bats against Keller, and then I look to say which bats I would like, and it's just like a Rosarena.
Is the Rosarena your preferred top Rays bat?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could make a case, I guess, for like Choi or Diaz, but yeah, I think it's Rosarena.
I have it Choi, Diaz, or Rosarena, but those guys are all basically right next to each other.
Right.
And everyone else is nowhere near them. So I like Brujan.
Obviously, if Isaac
Brujan
Paredes
looks good if he's
starts,
leading
gonna
off.
homer 6 times, but
and they've got 3 guys with MPEs, which at least is very interesting from a flexibility standpoint. If Brujan's in the leadoff spot, second outfield eligibility for 3K, like I like that, but that's more of a one-off option than anything else.
Somebody said Franco could get activated today. I hadn't seen that, but
that'd be interesting.
I haven't looked.
I don't have anything else here. Rays or Pirates?
The DraftKings blurb says he could be activated tomorrow.
Okay. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Obviously, a slightly high-ranked prospect. Schedule for the rest of the day. We're 3 games in already. We're moving pretty good. We've got not a lot going on. It's a pretty easy content day around the Stokastic parts. MLB Deeper Dive coming up at 4:45. Adam and I will be back doing this show once again. Adam, you might want to go ahead and write that one down. Even you,
even me,
even you can smash. Thanks, Naked HD. Did I pull that up with you on the show yesterday, or was that with Greg on Live Before Lock?
Pull up what?
I went to naked-hd.xyz on the Live Before Lock show last night.
No, I was not there.
It took me immediately into a messenger with a girl that was just like, "Hey, you look hot," and then sent me a topless picture.
And
I was just like, "Oh, this is
why
spam,
you have 5
I'm fine with it."
is so that you can do stuff like that and never have to use that one again.
Absolutely. MLB Deeper Dive with Adam and I at 4:45. We're going to break this slate down once again with updated information. And then MLB Live Before Lock coming up tonight from 6 to 7. Free content today. MLB Top Stacks. We will reference it basically for every single team that we touch on today. Might be the most important MLB tool that we have behind the paywall. So make sure you're checking it out. And then MMA rankings are free for this Saturday's just absolute garbage card of UFC, but whatever. On to Braves and Dodgers. The Braves, 4.4 run implied total as the reigning defending champions of baseball. 5 run implied total for the Dodgers, which means Braves are not favored in this bad boy, and they're at home. Ian Anderson going for Atlanta. Julio Urias going for the Dodgers. Neither guy getting any ownership. Anderson at 8,100, unowned. Urias at 9,200, just 3% owned. This is just another spot where I'd happily take like 5% of Springs and give it to Urias, but great strikeout matchup, terrifying matchup from a talent perspective.
Yeah, exactly. A solid pitcher in Urias, 22.2% strikeout percentage. Does have a 4.13 xFIP so far this season, but not overly concerned about that. We have a long track record of him being good. But like you said, it's a good strikeout matchup, but a difficult overall matchup against Atlanta. I assume their offense or their lineup rather, is going to be back to what it's supposed to look like and not the garbage lineup they ran out yesterday that still managed to put up like 7 runs. So just a pretty tough sell in getting to Urias in a lot of lineups. He's more so just somebody where, in a lineup here or there, if I need to save some ownership, he's going to look fine, but just probably not going to show up in a lot of lineups overall.
Yeah, this is one of those things we talk, or at least I try to mention these types of guys where I think he's under-owned, but he's not but he's still like the 9th best option on the slate. And then you end up like getting pinched where you're getting positive leverage, but he's down the line. Like he came out of my sim at 9%. He's 3% owned. If you told me I got 9%, I'm really happy. He's probably like my 8th most exposed pitcher or 7th most exposed pitcher at that point.
Yeah. And like Alex and I were talking about it the other day too. We both typically just end up not being that different at pitcher. Usually they're more projectable. It's only one spot in your lineup as opposed to 5. So it's kind of just, it doesn't make that much of a difference when, you're trying to, but when you're trying to kind of like combine, make lineups that project well, but also are relatively low owned, pitching typically isn't really going to move the needle that much, whereas stacks will.
Let's talk about stacks here. I assume you don't have any Ian Anderson takes in this spot.
I do not.
Let's talk about stacks. I want to talk about the Braves first. I want to talk about the Braves first. 2.8% chance of being the top stack. That is the 19th highest number of the 28 teams on this slate. Does that just feel low to you? I'm more interested in the Braves at no ownership up and down the lineup than the public appears to be, where only Acuna is owned.
I mean, I can see it just because there's so much power in the lineup. Against righties this year, which is going to be most of the Atlanta lineup, Urias has only struck out 19.3%. 163 expected ISO isn't horrible. 299 expected WOBA is good, but there's a ton of power. The issue kind of is just there's 14 games, and so there's just going to be so many relatively low-owned teams that are not facing Urias.
I just feel like we're like mildly overrating Urias here. Like the Braves are still getting to a 4.4 run implied total. I just like 19th, the 19th best offense today feels dramatically low from a rank perspective.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like the idea of getting to Atlanta.
I mean, they're also just like they're at 4.6%. Or no, that's a 4.6 team total. Never mind. 2.8%. Yeah, so I guess that does seem a little bit low.
Like I'm happy to pay up to be contrarian if it means I get Acuna, Riley, Ozuna, Contreras, Duvall, all getting righty lefty matchups here. Like I think this bodes well for Atlanta. I'm trying not to be a homer.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like right now you're only getting 2% ownership going to the Dodgers. You're only getting 4 going to the Red Sox, 4 going to Toronto. It's kind of like I would just rather be getting there, I think.
Yeah, it's like we have the Dodgers as the number 1 top stack at 7%. Like even that gap just feels really big for what we see on the surface for this game. Like, do I like the Dodgers? Yeah. Do I expect to get to them? Not really. But like they're also unowned. I'm happy to get there. We also like I'd rather get to the Braves and the Dodgers before I got to the Yankees and Astros.
I agree with that.
I'm just really surprised to see so little ownership here. Like Trey Turner at 7%, probably driven quite a bit by the fact that he's a shortstop hitting leadoff in a road game. But neither side of this is getting any ownership. I'm more interested in the bats here than it seems to be.
Yeah, I think
like shown in ownership.
I think the ownership too probably just speaks to the lack of inexpensive pitching.
Agreed. Yeah, because not a lot of people are going very south of Merrill Kelly at 7,900. Sign me up for the Braves. I'm going to be a homer today. Sneaky stack. Too much power. Best Dodgers bat. Is it revenge narrative alert?
For Freddie?
Yeah.
I mean, probably Turner just because he's a shortstop, followed by probably Smith because he's a catcher. But any of these guys are good.
Braves bat is clearly Acuna.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. Roster the Braves, everybody. Rangers and Nats. 5.1 run implied total for the Rangers, 4 for the Nationals. Dane Dunning going for Texas. Paolo Espino going for Washington. Dunning actually at 4% ownership, 7,500. Is he a guy that you're willing to pay down with, or does he just sort of look like 12 other dudes?
I don't mind using him where I do need to pay down. He's only getting 4% ownership. He's a decent enough pitcher. The matchup's not horrible. It's basically a league average, matchup. So I don't mind using Dunning here. 21.2% strikeout percentage, 3.82 xFIP so far this season. Amongst the relatively inexpensive pitchers, I do think he looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't have much of a take here on Dunning or Espino. Tough strikeout matchup against the Nats, so I'm gonna skip pitchers here. I don't think that you're going to be talking about Espino.
No.
Alrighty. Then we will move it along to talk about bats, and we've got some offensive ownership now. The Rangers are 4th in ownership, 9th in our stack score, but 5th in top stack. I'm probably just as interested as the public. Semien, Seager, Garver, the guys that are pulling the bulk of the ownership for Texas. How do you feel here targeting the Rangers against Espino?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good spot against Espino. Going back to last season, a 231 expected ISO to righties for Espino, 172 to lefties. Looking at the Texas projected lineup, I like Adolis Garcia. I like Mitch Garver from the right side. Semien looks fine as well. And then from the left side, you have Corey Seager as a strong shortstop option. You have a cheap Cole Calhoun. You have a cheap Nate Lowe. So it's a nice combination, I think, of power upside and guys that are relatively inexpensive that'll let you get to good pitching.
Best Rangers bat, Seager?
Yeah. 3K Mitch Garver.
Yeah, that's fair. That's just a lot of power to buy for a catcher option.
Yeah.
18% ownership makes sense. Probably going to be the cash catcher. I haven't looked, but seems likely if you're at 18% on a 14 gamer. Is there anything here for the Nats bats for you? Cheap to get to. You're either paying up for Juan Soto or you don't really have to worry about salary. 4-run implied total doesn't really excite me all that much. 12th in ownership, 6th in stack score.
Yeah, they don't really stand out to me. Like, I have respect for Dunning as a pitcher. He's not somebody that I'm like always going to just shy away from taking bats against, but he is good enough that he's not like pushing Washington up the list for me. 177 expected ISO to lefties, 136 to righties. If you want to get to Soto, Bell, Cruz, like those guys are always fine, but they just kind of don't stand out to me.
Frank Castle wants to know what happened to Juan Soto. We touched on this a couple days ago. The answer is absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean, he's commented that he's going through some stuff at the plate that he's not used to and having trouble like figuring out what's wrong with him, but still hitting the ball well. For the season, his expected ISO is like 50, 60 points higher than his actual ISO against right-handed pitching. His expected WOBA is 50 points higher than his actual WOBA, and he still has a 386 WOBA and 261 ISO against right-handed pitching.
That'll do it. Anything else here, Rangers or Nats?
222 BABIP.
Whew. That'll do it.
No.
Brewers and Blue Jays. 4-run implied total for the Brewers, 4.5 for the Jays. Adrian Hauser and Alek Manoah going in this one. No one rostering Hauser at 7,300. I agree with it. 10% of the people, however, rostering Alek Manoah. To me, that feels a little low. I'm very interested in Manoah. I like the matchup against the Brewers. They're clearly the favorite. There's some strikeouts here. Why just 10%? Why lower than Severino?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, the strikeout numbers for Manoah this year are a little bit lower than I expected at 22.9%, but still decent. He's walking less than 5% of hitters. 3.75 xFIP is good. There are strikeouts to be had in the Milwaukee lineup. So I'm with you at, a reasonable $9,500 price tag. I'm kind of surprised he's not getting a little bit more ownership.
I don't see him as all that different than Nola today. I've got Manoah projected basically the exact same that I have Verlander and Nola. And obviously one of these guys is 9,500 and the others are in the 10Ks.
Yeah, I mean, we have Nola 3 points higher than Manoah.
Okay. I like this match. I don't think the Brewers offense is all that good. 106 aggregate WRC plus is, middle of the pack to lower end of the pack. There's certainly strikeouts. Everybody's K rate for Steamer is at least 20%. Top of the order's got like a 24 and a 27 up there. Not sure I get it. Let me see. I'm going to pull up PrizePicks now a little bit earlier than I should be because we're going to talk about them after we finish this next game. But I want to see what the strikeout prop is on Manoah. I've got him at 6.1. If it's sitting at 6, then I am very, very interested. Strikeouts. Verlander is at 6. Manoah is at 6. So, yeah, at 6, I'm very interested. I don't know why he's underrepresented in ownership. To me, this is a guy that you should be actively trying to get to. More so than Severino, even more so than Verlander because of the savings.
Yeah, I don't really disagree with that.
More than Verlander?
Wait, what?
Did you say you do disagree with it?
I said I don't disagree.
Oh, okay. I was just like, which way are we going here? All right, let's talk offenses then, because I don't think you're talking about Adrian Hauser, correct?
Correct.
All right. We're going to have to talk about the Blue Jays, who are 4th in our top stack percentage, 10th in ownership. Stack score, though, not very nice to them because they are expensive. How do they hash out for you? Clearly, we're always interested in parts of this lineup.
Yeah, and Hauser's decent at limiting power, but he doesn't miss a lot of bats. And anytime you're going to have guys with this much power putting the ball in play, I'm going to be interested. Only a 123 expected ISO to righties this year for Hauser, but also only an 18% strikeout percentage. The Blue Jays are not pulling a ton of ownership, 4% aggregate ownership, 5% chance of being the top stack. Makes them look pretty appealing. Bottom of the order is inexpensive as well.
Yeah. Give me some Vlad, give me some Bichette, give me some Kirk. Happy with all of those things. Are there any Brewers bats that you'd be willing to target?
Not really. I mean, there's nothing that really stands out to me against Manoah. 125 expected ISO to lefties, just shy of 100 to righties since the start of last season. 112 to lefties so far this year, less than 100 to righties so far this year. There's just not really anything that stands out.
All right, let's take it over to game number 7, the halfway point of this show. Twins and Rockies, 5.1 run implied total for the Twins, 4.3 for the Rockies. We've got Dylan Bundy on the hill for Minnesota, Germán Marquez going for Colorado. Neither guy really getting any ownership. I don't see anything here that I'm trying to target.
Yeah, me neither. It's a tough matchup for Marquez going up against the Twins. Bundy has the better matchup going up against the Rockies outside of Coors, but Bundy is also not very good. If I'm going to cheap pitching, if I'm stacking a team like the Dodgers or the Red Sox or whatever, either of these pitchers I think are fine. They're in that Dane Dunning category where I don't mind getting to them here and there, but they're not going to show up in a ton of lineups, I don't think.
Yeah, like I had Germán Marquez come in at 6%. He's 3% owned. I did get a little bit of Bundy, but basically right at the ownership. They are guys that are functionally rosterable. Yep. They're not like straight up ignores like a couple of these other guys at the bottom, but there's not a lot of ownership that's coming in here.
Yeah. And for what it's worth on Marquez too, he has struggled this year, but 3.81 xFIP is still solid. 20.1% strikeout percentage is a little lower than you would expect, but not, horrible.
Right. We have the Twins as the 7th top stack. They are 6th in ownership, but 18th in stack score. Pretty expensive to get to, at least in the top 5. Where does that land you here? Do you want to try to target against Marquez? Do the Twins just look over-owned to you?
Yeah, I think they look a little bit over-owned here. I think I don't even really know what the reason would be. They're not that cheap. Like Alex Kirilloff at 2,600 is really cheap, but Arias, Buxton, assuming he's back in the lineup, Correa, Kepler, Sanchez, these guys are all relatively expensive too. So it's not that I wouldn't want to take shots at the Twins, but given that they are relatively expensive and getting ownership, like I would just rather be going to other teams. I mean, we have Minnesota with a 1% chance of being the top value stack. So it's not like they're getting ownership because they're cheap. It just kind of seems like we're projecting them to get ownership instead of similarly priced teams like Boston and the Dodgers. They're in better spots.
Yeah. This is another spot where like if the Twins are going to have this much ownership, I would certainly rather have the Braves.
Yeah. I mean, Toronto also the same exact top value percentage and getting like half the ownership.
Yeah. Dodgers, obviously, another example there. But yeah, I'm not sure I see it for the Twins. Clearly, I understand why Byron Buxton's 12% owned. Don't get me wrong. There just seems like you can get the same sort of performance for either the same price and no ownership or a slightly cheaper price and no ownership.
Yeah, and I will say the aggregate ownership is a little bit misleading because of that. 12% to Buxton when he's one of the best hitters in baseball, and then 10% to Kirilloff, who looks like a really good value, is pulling up their aggregate ownership a bit. But still 7% coming into Correa, 6% to Arias, 5% to Sanchez.
Any justification at all to go to the Rockies against Dylan Bundy?
Not real. I mean, the justification would be Dylan Bundy isn't very good, but neither are the Rockies. CJ Cron, I think, looks good. Brendan Rodgers looks fine, but it's not a team that I would expect to get a lot of.
Only 2 offenses grayed out worse for me today in WRC plus. Rockies at an aggregate 98, and they're on the road, so it's probably even worse than that. There's definitely some sort of Colorado effect to them playing on the road. Diamondbacks and Reds tied at 97, so real putrid. I got nothing else here. Twins and Rockies.
Me neither.
Alrighty. Time to talk about PrizePicks. I mentioned them earlier. Now let's touch on them again today. Awesemo is the promo code. If you use it, you can get a 100% instant match deposit bonus of up to $100. So you put in 100, they are matching with 100. You're not going to find a better deal in this space right now. You don't have to worry about sharks and optimizers. This is building parlay cards, and it's across all sorts of different sports. It doesn't just have to be baseball. WNBA, NHL for at least tonight, PGA, USFL, which is slowly working its way out. You can do lacrosse and disc golf. There's all sorts of stuff at PrizePicks for you. Plenty of edges to be had if you use the PrizePicks player prop tool at Stokastic.com. So sign up, Check it all out. I'm going to hit Adam with a prop or two, just looking at some pitcher fantasy scores. Like, how about Justin Verlander for today? Someone we talked about a little bit earlier. 33.5 fantasy points.
We have him at 33.1, so seems good.
I have him at 33.5. Luis Severino, same projection.
Wait, you mean same line?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll take, I guess, the over there. We have him at 34.
I will take the under here, where I have him at 29.7. I'm going to hit you with one or two more here. Springs at 36.5.
Under, we have him at 31.9.
I think that makes some sense. I lost him here. Where did he go? Oh, God. It freaked me out. He doesn't have a picture on PrizePicks. And like when I look back at it, the fact that there was no picture made it so that I actually couldn't see anything that was going on in that game. I got him at 28.3. So I am well low on Springs. Well, hey, one more. Julio Urias, 27.5.
Over, we have him at 30.2.
I got him at 26.2. That's one I'd probably stay away from, but I think the line's kind of correct. I'm anti-Urias today. Just call me a Braves homer. White Sox and Orioles. We're on to game number 8. 4.9 run implied total for the Sox, 4 for the Orioles. Michael Kopech and Austin Voth. Kopech, 14% owned. I think that looks about right. Probably bump it up a little bit. Austin Voth, not somebody that I'll be getting to. Not going to be going deep enough into this game. Talk to me about Kopech, 14% owned.
Yeah, I think Kopech looks pretty good here. The Orioles offense is not bad, especially the top part of the order, but only a 9K price tag on Kopech. Has good strikeout stuff, 24.6% strikeout percentage this year. He does walk too many guys, 11.2 walk percentage for Kopech, 4.54 xFIP, but the price tag, the strikeout numbers, just make him look pretty good here, I think.
Yeah. As always, I'm trying to get to pitchers against the Orioles.
I think that
doesn't sound. I know. I'm just kidding. It used to be such a reflex where you're just like, oh, this team blows.
Yeah, not the case anymore.
No, not at all. Top of the order is really good. We don't have to talk about Austin Voth, so let's talk about the second most owned team on this slate. That would be the Chicago White Sox. They are 10th in our top stack tool, 6th in value, 5th in stack score. A bit over-owned for me, but I clearly see the appeal.
Yeah, I mean, I get it because Austin Voth isn't very good, but the issue is that he's not going to go deep into this game either, regardless of how he's pitching. You're probably getting him like 1.5 times through the order. He threw 41 pitches in his spot start last Sunday, and the Orioles bullpen is good. So I do think that this spot probably is just being like a little bit overestimated in terms of how good of a spot it is, just because, Austin Voth isn't particularly good. You're just going to start getting Baltimore bullpen arms basically once you get through the order once. So it's not, I'm not trying to make it out to be a bad spot here, but probably going a bit over owned at 10% ownership and only a 4% chance of being the top stack.
Yeah, not the spot that I'm probably going to get to with a lot of volume just because of that current ownership. We'll see where it goes. Do you get
the ownership's pretty spread out too? Like it's not like one or two guys are pulling it up. Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu, Andrew Vaughn, Pollock, all north of 10%. Robert and Berger both between 9 and 10%. So it's just a relatively popular lineup for most of it.
Yeah, the aggregate ownership tells the correct tale for the White Sox.
Yep.
You going to your O's here?
I don't hate it. They're not expensive, which is nice. You're going to be able to get good pitching, good one-offs with them. When you look at those top 6 guys in the order, Mullins is the only guy above 4K at 4,700. Hayes is 4K flat. But Rutschman's cheap. Mountcastle's cheap. Santander and Mancini are cheap. Mancini also has first base outfield eligibility, so you can roster him with Mountcastle, which is nice. And then the bottom of the order is not very good, but it's also essentially free. I don't mind getting into the Orioles here against Kopech.
Okay. Favorite bat, Mullins? Santander?
Rutschman.
Okay. No complaints with that answer. Unowned too, by the way, which is clearly appealing in large field GPP sense. And went yard yesterday. So keep the momentum alive.
Yeah, monster shot yesterday.
Let's go to Royals and A's. 4.8 run implied total for the Royals, 4.2 for the A's. Zach Greinke going for Kansas City. Cole Irvin going for the A's. Neither pitcher getting any ownership. Zach Greinke, 5,200. Are you rostering either guy?
I don't think so. Greinke
15% K rate for Greinke and Steamer. Whew.
What'd you say?
15% strikeout rate for Greinke and Steamer.
Yeah, not great. Coming back from the injured list, hasn't pitched in the majors in nearly a month. It's a good matchup. But so he went 12 innings across 2 rehab starts. So I guess it's not likely that he's going to be limited. He is really cheap. Yeah. It is a good matchup. He's also really bad.
Yeah. There's nothing here for me for pitching. This is not the Zach Greinke of old, that's for sure.
No. Yeah, the only thing
this is an old Zach Greinke.
What'd you say?
I said it's not the Zach Greinke of old, it's the old Zach Greinke.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I guess I would point out is like if you have to go down to that price range, then just put him in and pray, I guess. It is a good matchup, but I don't think I'm going to really need to do that.
Alrighty. Cole Irvin, I assume, is the same scenario for you? Not interested?
Yeah.
Okay. Bats. We got to talk about this one. So let's start with the Royals, since they're the home team and pulling more ownership. They are 5th in aggregate ownership, 9th in top stack, 10th in top value. I think they're like properly owned-ish for their combination of top stack, top value, but I don't really love getting there in this park. I'm not like super interested in the Royals offense normally. What do you see, especially for the Royals going up against a lefty arm where you're probably going to run, you're not going to run as well against a lefty as you would against a righty. What do you do with Kansas City?
Yeah, they're getting the ownership, so I think it's going to be kind of tough for me to get there. It's not it's not a very good offense. It is a team that I get to a decent amount, just because typically you have Salvador Perez at catcher, but he's injured, so he won't be there. Bobby Witt is pretty much always a strong shortstop option. Merrifield's always a strong second base option, so they'll kind of look they'll kind of look decent. But with the ownership coming in, it's kind of just neutral for me. I'm not that excited. You mentioned the left-handed pitcher affecting stolen bases. I wanted to look just to see how Irvin's been. He hasn't allowed a stolen base yet this year in 11 starts.
Okay.
Now, he's allowed 2 stolen bases in his career.
The A's are comparably owned. They have basically the same top stack odds, but they're incredibly cheap in comparison. 2nd in top value. This is our top stack score for today, targeting Greinke. How do you feel about going to Oakland? I get it from a price perspective. I'm not all that enamored with this team.
Yeah, I mean, they're really bad, but the ownership really isn't that crazy. Like, we have Jonah Bride getting 13%. He's 2K flat with multi-position eligibility, so that makes some sense. Bethancourt's at 7%. Seth Brown, coming off of a fantastic ejection yesterday, is at 6%. Lowry's at 5%. Laureano's at 5%. So, yeah, I mean, it's a bad pitcher. It's a bad offense. One of these two sides has to win out, and they're all cheap.
So who's the better team today? Who's the team that you would rather have, the Royals or the A's?
I think the A's, just because they're so cheap.
Interesting. Okay.
And they're getting less ownership.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see the A's coming in this list. Like, when I entered Royals and everything popped up, I did not expect to see that the A's were our top stack score team. And there they are. What a fall from grace for Zach Greinke.
Yeah, I mean, he's like 48.
That's true.
How old is he, actually?
Gotta be like 34, 35?
He's older than that.
38.
Yeah.
I did not think that he was older than me. Turns out he is.
He has been pitching in the major leagues since I was 14.
What year did he start?
2004.
Okay. So I graduated high school and he got to the majors. Man,
I started high school. He got to the majors.
And we had very different lives. Well, he took that like sabbatical and stuff for a bit.
Yeah, he had anxiety issues.
Yeah.
I was 6, by the way. If that makes y'all feel any better. I was 6.
Just makes me feel old, dude. Just makes me feel old. Righty. I'm ready to keep this one moving if you are.
Yep.
Maybe it'll help if I actually type into one of these cells. Cardinals and Cubs, 4.9 run implied total for the Cards, 4.1 for the Cubs. Andre Palante is the way that I'm going to say it, assuming that that's what it is. Kyle Hendricks going for the Cubs. Neither one getting any ownership. Are you rostering pitching here?
I got distracted. I was reading about Johnny Davis, but the Cardinals pitcher, Payante, he's another one where like he's 5,500, so maybe he kind of just sneaks into some lineups where I'm paying up. Through 75 pitches his last time out, so that's good. But overall this year, he's not listed, so that's not helpful.
Great work.
Yeah, he's not on the Fangraphs page. Overall this year, 12.5% strikeout percentage against lefties, 19.2% against righties. He's done a good job of limiting power, but certainly not anybody I'm going out of my way to get to. And then Kyle Hendricks is just garbage.
Yep. Don't have anything to disagree with there. Let's talk offenses. We'll talk about the team with the 8th most aggregate ownership. That would be the Cardinals. Most of that going to Nolan Gorman. They are 8th in top stack, 15th in top value. You trying to target the garbage Kyle Hendricks here?
Yes, I am. I've been doing it for years, and now finally he isn't good, and it has a chance to succeed. Gorman, stands out from a value standpoint. That's why he's getting 9% ownership. But everybody else is like 5.5% or less projected ownership. Hendricks doesn't miss bats. He gives up some power. 309 expected ISO to lefties this year for Hendricks, 162 to righties. The number to righties isn't horrible, but there is plenty of right-handed power in this lineup. Goldschmidt and Arenado in particular. You have left-handed bats with Edman, Gorman, Donovan, Carlson from the left side as well. So I like getting to the Cardinals here.
Yeah, you and me both. Just think they stand out against Hendricks. They're at basically no ownership. That's certainly a spot that I'd be willing to take a shot here. Best bat is Goldie.
Yeah. Gorman.
Okay. I certainly love being able to stack up teams that go short, second, first, third, and then if you need to, first/second out of Donovan, Yepez as MPE first and outfield. Very easy team to put a stack together for.
Yeah, for sure. All that's missing is catcher.
Yeah. Where's Yadi Molina at?
Yeah.
Cubs side, getting a bit of ownership. 11th in aggregate, 3.2%. Most of that going to Patrick Wisdom right now. They are 7th in our stack score. I'm a little bit less interested in the Cubs in comparison to where we have them. Do you want to target? I'm going Payante now. We're going to go double L's.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay, but I'm with you. Like, I prefer getting to the Cardinals here. I don't think a lot really stands out from the Cubs. They are cheap, which is nice. Outside of Contreras, this entire lineup is basically free. Morel, Happ, Wisdom are north of 3K. Contreras is at 5,200. Everyone else is below 3K. So it is a good value team, but I don't think they look as good as the Cardinals do.
All right. Happ, best bat or Contreras?
Yeah, I think it's Happ.
Okay. Nothing else here for me.
Nope.
Angels and Mariners. 5.2 run implied total for the Angels, 4.3 for the Mariners. Michael Lorenzen and Chris Flexen. No one really getting any ownership. Lorenzen is at 4%, 7,200. I think that's about right here in a good strikeout matchup against the Mariners. Lorenzen, not really that kind of guy, though. Do you get to him at all?
Not with any sort of real frequency. Like, he's not a great strikeout pitcher. The matchup isn't great. I mean, there are strikeouts to be had, but Seattle's got a solid offense. And like you said, Lorenzen's just not a particularly good strikeout pitcher either. 17.6% strikeout percentage for Lorenzen this year. So nothing that I'm going out of my way to get to.
Flexen?
No.
Before we continue, please hit that like button once again. Let's run that number up. I don't even know where it's at. I didn't look. I assume it's low, and I would like them to go higher. So hit the thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything other than a button click. Let's talk about the most owned team on this slate. That would be the Angels. 1st in ownership, 3rd in top stack, 7th in value, 2nd in stack score. This is my number 1 team. This is the team with the highest implied total on the slate. That said, are they over-owned to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a good spot, and it's always nice because you get Ohtani, you get Trout, 2 of the best hitters in baseball. You get a cheap Jared Walsh who has plenty of power. Taylor Ward's been fantastic this year. He's reasonably priced, so I understand why the ownership is there, and it's a good matchup against Flexen as well. 245 expected ISO to righties this year, 216 to lefties, 16.5% strikeout percentage against both sides of the plate. So very, very good spot. But you're just kind of talking about there's 27 other offenses on the slate, and the Angels' aggregate ownership is in the double digits. 21% ownership going to Trout, 15 to Ohtani, 13 to Walsh, 13 to Ward. I understand that they're really good plays, but they're still going to fail a lot. It's baseball.
Yeah. I wish I had something to add here. Definitely a team that I'm going to get to, probably a bit overowned. I think there are stacks that are going to get you there a little bit more frequently. Well, no, I think there are teams that are going to pay you off a little bit more frequently based on where the Angels ownership currently resides. What about for Seattle? Is there anything here for you against Lorenzen?
Not really. Jesse Winker at 3,300 looks like a good value. I like Julio Rodriguez at 5,500, but they just kind of don't stand out to me as a great spot to get to.
Matt Duffy on FanDuel, first, second, and third eligibility if you need to just play somebody anywhere you want. Nothing else here for me.
No, me neither. It's going to be probably the spot where I have a bunch of Angels in cash and not in tournaments, and my night goes sideways when this game starts.
There we go. Well, time to talk a little bit about Nola now. We've been kicking this one for a little bit. Mackenzie Gore going for the Pods. Aaron Nola going for the Phillies. Mackenzie Gore actually 10% owned at 9,100. I think that's completely reasonable. Aaron Nola 35% owned at 10.3. You already have my thoughts, but get Adam's thoughts here. Where does Nola stack up for you at the top?
I mean, I think he's the highest projected pitcher on the slate. The matchup against the Padres isn't nearly as daunting as the matchup for Verlander or for Severino. You have a banged-up Padres team without Machado or Tatis, so that helps as well. 3.4 implied run total for the Padres. Nola has the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Severino. So, I mean, I like Nola a lot. I think he, like I said, is the highest projected pitcher.
Yeah. I tend to see Nola more in the same camp as Verlander and in the same camp as Manoah. I don't love the matchup against the Padres. The implied total obviously plays well into his hands. Do I think that he should be 30% owned? Yeah, like I think he looks great. I'd love getting the savings over Verlander, but if he's 30-something% owned and Manoah is 10, I know what I want to do in GPPs slightly more frequently.
Yeah, I mean, I think I just probably get to a lot of Nola and low-owned offenses.
That's fair. Any interesting thoughts on Gore here against the Phillies?
I think the 10% ownership makes sense. He's a good pitcher. He's a top prospect. He's having success this year. 26.5% strikeout percentage, 3.7 xFIP. Not the best matchup going up against Philadelphia. He has also allowed a 194 expected ISO to righties this year, only a 104 actual ISO. So expect to see some regression there. And we know the Phillies do have power in their lineup, but I think he's just kind of like comparable to Manoah for me.
Okay. I'd say let's talk about offenses, but I don't get the sense that we're talking about either one of them here. 27th in ownership for the Padres, 22nd for the Phillies. The Phillies are actually 22nd in top stack, top value, ownership, and stack score, which is pretty tough to pull off. You getting anywhere here?
No, I mean, to me, the Phillies are the more appealing of the two, but it's still just they're in that same boat with like the Yankees and the Astros and these teams where there's a lot of power, but there are just so many low-owned offenses to get to today that aren't facing one of the best pitchers on the slate.
Yeah, I don't see anything that I want to get to. From the Padres perspective, given the guys that are out, like I actually think the entire lineup looks terrible. I don't even have a guy where I would be like, who's your best Padres bat? I don't have an answer.
Yeah,
on the Phillies,
like probably Grisham leading off or Mazzara hitting fifth at 2,100, but the answer is just kind of like none of them.
Yeah, relatively speaking, I think every one of these Padre bats are behind like 100 bats on the slate. And I mean that as 100.
Yep.
On the Phillies side, Schwarber, Hoskins, Harper, you can't really go wrong with any of those three.
Hoskins would be my answer for top bat.
Yeah, obviously, you get the righty-lefty matchup. Very helpful. Nothing else here for me.
Me neither.
Really curious to see like as lines move throughout the day and as once I take my second lap through where my top pitching arms end up landing.
As opposed to your top hitting arms?
Fuck me. Diamondbacks and Tigers, 4.7 run implied total for the D-backs, 3.8 for the Tigers. Merrill Kelly and Ronnie Garcia going in this one. Kelly is your pay down du jour. If pay down means 7,900, he is 24% owned. I don't love it, but he's definitely the best guy sub 8K. That much I'm willing to say. And it's a great matchup against the Tigers.
Right. Yeah. He's just going to fit into lineups because he's 7,900. He's relatively inexpensive. Should he be getting 6 times the ownership of somebody like Dane Dunning or Marquez or Bundy? Probably not. But he projects better. And, kind of like we've talked about already on this show, you're talking about one spot in your lineup. So as long as I have low owned hitters or whatever around him, I'm not really going to worry about it that much. It's a good spot against the Tigers. He's a good enough pitcher. 20.3% strikeout percentage, 4.09 xFIP this year. I get why the ownership's there. Probably a little bit overowned, but also just the clear top projected guy in that price range.
Yep. I don't really have anything else that I could say there. You summed it up perfectly. Garcia?
I'm actually interested in him as far as the pay down guys go. I've kind of, alluded to Zach Greinke and Piante and these guys as sometimes I just end up on bad 5K-ish pitchers. Garcia actually does have some strikeout upside. He's also fully stretched out. He threw 90-something pitches, 92 pitches last time out, went 6 innings against the Rangers. Overall this season, he has a 27.3% strikeout percentage. He's not supposed to be that good of a prospect, I don't think. So I think you do see those numbers come down at least a bit at AAA. So he's kind of just bounced around he's kind of just bounced around. In 2021, he only made 4 starts at AAA. Pitched 2 games in the majors for the Tigers. This year, he has 2 games out of the bullpen at AAA. 13 total games in the majors, 5 starts for the Tigers. Zips projects him 21.6% strikeout percentage for the rest of the season. He's at 27.3 right now. But one way or the other, the point here is that he's at least got some semblance of talent that most of these other cheap guys don't have.
He's the guy that stands out the most to me in that really cheap range. I've got him ahead of Piante and Greinke and everything else. Not that I want to get there a ton, but he would be the first guy I would choose.
Agreed.
Guess we got to talk about Diamondbacks bats against Garcia. 3rd in ownership, 3rd in stack score, 6th and 4th in top stack and top value, respectively. Do you see the same thing here for Arizona?
I think it's a pretty good spot. They are getting ownership as well. It's another team that I think they're just pulling a little bit more ownership than I would like. They're inexpensive, so I get it, but it's an okay matchup. It's an okay offense. I just have trouble getting to them given the ownership that they're getting compared to some other teams.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're a little bit overowned, and I don't know. I just don't find them all that appealing. It's not a lineup with a ton of power. I actually have them as tied for the worst aggregate offense on the slate. If the lineup that I have is the one that ends up playing, I think it's just a lot easier to ignore the Diamondbacks today.
Yeah. $2,900 Alec Thomas is pulling the most ownership on DraftKings. He's someone that is certainly going to be on your short list in cash games. He's a really good value. He's a top 100 prospect. He's cheap. He's hitting most likely towards the top of the order. So, I get why he's getting the most ownership. He individually looks like a very good value to me.
I agree. He would be my Diamondbacks answer for who's the best bat. If you want to say that it's Varsho, I can't fault you for it. I have them basically equal, but you get a $1,700 savings on Thomas. Do you want to go to our top value stack for today, the Detroit Tigers?
Not particularly. I do still like Riley Green at 2,200. That looks good. Grossman's cheap. Javi Baez seems like maybe he's remembered how to hit a baseball. He's been destroying me in head-to-heads recently. That hasn't been fun. But yeah, it's tough for me to really get to a lot of the Tigers here.
Yeah, I can't really pitch them at all. Let's close it out. Before we do, subscribe, notification bell, and once again, shout out to PrizePicks for being the sponsor here. Adam and I back at 4:45 for the deeper dive, live before lock at 6. Standard issue night here, breaking down this 14-gamer. Giants and Reds, final game. 4.6 run implied total for the Giants, 3.3 for the Reds. Alex Cobb going for San Francisco. Graham Ashcraft going for the Reds. I've got a question here for you at 8,300. We see Springs at 47% ownership, $200 more expensive. I like Alex Cobb here at 5% ownership against the Reds. The Reds are terrible.
The concern I have is how deep into this game he can go.
Fair.
He made his first start back last time out, only threw 60 pitches in 4 innings. So, I haven't seen an official pitch count, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the like 70 to 75 pitch range.
Yeah.
So you don't have that, true ceiling for him. That would be my concern.
Yeah. I like the ownership though. We're definitely going to need a little bit more information, but he is being sandwiched by Springs and Kelly. And I think that there's some value there in the lack of ownership. He showed up really well for me. I got him in for 4 2/3. Definitely agree with your point of, he doesn't have the same sort of right tail, or potentially doesn't at the very least. If he can get to 5 innings, I think you could be set up for a pretty good spot here because the Reds just are truly putrid.
Yeah, and I mean, Cobb has a 27% strikeout percentage this year as well. The other issue for me, it's like because it's not with the slate being as big as it is, you're not just talking about needing Cobb to beat Springs. You legitimately need a good start from Cobb.
It's very true. It's a very good point. He would be way more interesting on like a 7-gamer than he is today. I don't need to ask you about Graham Ashcraft, do I?
No.
Okay. Do I need to ask you about Giants bats who are 19th in ownership today?
Yeah, I think I'm a little more interested in the Giants than the public is projected to be. It is, a bad park to hit in for sure, but there's good power bats in this lineup. Ashcraft he's not supposed to be particularly good. We have a very small sample size in the majors. Jock Peterson, Mike Yastrzemski, Brandon Belt. These guys are pretty reasonably priced and just not pulling ownership.
I'm happy to get to some of them, that's for sure. I actually have a different lineup pretty significantly than our current ownership. So 3 different guys of the 9. Maybe that is part of the difference here. The only real problem for me is just trying to target Giants bats in this ballpark. Great from a run, totally fine from a runs perspective, but just absolutely nerfs any sort of home runs.
Gonzalez is on the injured list if he's one of your guys.
He is not. I mean, I don't have him in the lineup at least right now. I don't get the sense I'm asking you anything about the Reds.
No, I don't really have any reason to get there.
All right, well, then let's sum it up here. Favorite pitchers for today?
Nola, Springs, Kelly, I guess.
Verlander, Nola, Manoah are my top tier of like pay ups. Springs and Kelly, obviously, if you're saving some salary, are the first 2 places you should be looking. But don't sleep on Alek Manoah. And then top stacks for you today.
Red Sox, Cardinals, Dodgers, if I can get to them.
Yeah. Give me some Braves if I can. Clearly, like the bats of the Angels and White Sox make some sense to me. But if the Braves maintain their low ownership, I want to target against Urias. GPP videos coming up in a little bit.
Yep.
Perfect. Keep your eyes peeled for everything else. Go watch The Process. I put that up earlier today. Checked out the contest that you should enter for today's MLB slate. Adam and I are back in 4 hours and 45 minutes to do this one again. So if you liked it now, hit that like button. Come back later today and watch it again and hit that like button for a second time. Thanks, guys, for being here. Shout out to PrizePicks for being the sponsor. Awesemo is the promo code AWESEMO. Good luck tonight, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.